March is Disabilities Awareness Month. Get your coffee and we'll be right back with GHC Coffee Break.
"7,000 high school students drop out every school day. That's a line of desks more than 4 miles long. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step.
Welcome to GHC Coffee Break. Joining me today is Sonia Wright Smith, who is coordinates our the disability support for the Floyd campus,
Marietta,
and Douglasville. I knew it was 3 campuses. Y'all have to spread out all over with all of our campuses. But Sonia, I really do appreciate you joining me. One of the things with disabilities, I mean, you're the expert. I used to kind of feel like I was. I think I'm totally out of the loop now. I worked with children and adults with disabilities for about 10 to 12 years before coming here to Highlands and began teaching in the Human Services program. You know, I think that a lot of times with disabilities, people, they see the ones like in the wheelchair, they see people that are blind. There's a lot of learning disabilities too. Just kind of, I'm going to kind of hand it over to you and you talk about a little bit about the different disabilities and we'll just kind of chat.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me over to talk with you on Coffee Break in reference to Student with Disabilities and Disability Awareness Month that's coming up in March. At Georgia Highlands College, we have 6 campuses and we have over 175 registered students with disabilities. And not all students use their accommodations on campus. However, they come and make sure that they're registered with the Disability Services Office, which is located in Student Support Services area. And the students come, they make sure they have the proper documentation as they self-identify to our department. And what we try to make sure that the students have their accommodations on campus. And what that means is, as you stated, you know, you have some students who have physical disabilities, vision impairments, hearing impairments. You have some students who use wheelchairs, who also may have other disabilities that we can't see, a lot of invisible disabilities. You have learning disabilities, you may have cognitive behavior disabilities, you may have psychological disabilities, such as post-traumatic stress. You may have traumatic brain injuries. So these injuries, you may not actually see them, but we also have some students who come, veterans, who come and register with our department because they may need accommodations. Any adjustments to academics, that means that, you know, the professional recommends that they have accommodations. So when they come, they have the proper documentation, and then we submit the documentation. If it's a learning disorder or learning disabilities or psychological, we'll submit that information to the Regent Center, the Regents Learning Disabilities, Learning Disorders, RCLD, which is at Georgia State. We'll submit that to them so that we can get approval of the recommendations that was given to us by the professionals. And then some, the medical conditions or the psychological, some we may not have to send to them. If we know a student is hearing impaired and they need a sign language interpreter, then we go on and get the documentation from that student and go on from there and give them the accommodations on campus. But as I stated, it's 6 campuses, and we have Kim Lennox, who does the Cartersville and Paulding campuses. And then Heritage Hall is also included in that Floyd component for me in reference to students with disabilities in the nursing and dental hygiene program. They'll also be included with the Floyd. So what we actually do is make sure that they get their the accommodations on campus. It's post-secondary is a little different when it comes to the ADA law. K through 12 is IDEA. That's for the K through 12 education component, and then post-secondary education is under the American with Disabilities Act, so which is a totally different law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, and I was more familiar with. I started when the public law 94-142 and 99-457. It was the education for people with disabilities in preschool, but then it's included at birth through 5 to get that early intervention. And I worked in Atlanta with a group of kids, and most of them had more. They were very physical disabilities, along with some cognitive disabilities. We tended to see more of the children that had a lot of pretty physical impairments, and therefore some mental impairments. We did have some. I can remember one kid who had spina bifida, very bright, but because of some other complications, he also had microcephalus. His head, instead of macrocephalus, where the head was swollen, it was very small. It was micro. So his brain injury, I'm sure, at birth. But he was a fighter. Oh my gosh! And getting in that little wheelchair, I mean, it was probably it looked like a toy, and he would be all over the place. And you know, my heart, I loved it. And I worked, with some adults, and most of them had a lot of serious cognitive impairments that were not able to go to college.
Right.
So, you know, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about disabilities in general. I worked with autism, which was really interesting.
And it's running, I mean, it's growing.
Yeah.
It's so many students that's coming with, even on that spectrum, Asperger's syndrome, autism. Just so many.
There's a lot of changes in how even it's treated. My little boy that was kind of the one that stuck out with me, I can remember the first time he really made good eye contact. He was probably 4, and we were out in the lake. We had taken him to the lake to swim, and I was holding him, and a fish are in lakes. Fish came up and bit him, apparently, or touched him one, and he looked up, gave me full eye contact, and had this awesome expression on his face. And it was a brief moment, but it was that, oh my gosh, it was like we connected.
They are just adorable. I think just given the ability to have experiences.
Yes, and that's it. And that's the way our program really looked at it. I can remember, again, starting early, and we'll talk about the college in the second segment. I want to get the more awareness out, and also, I guess, my passion for my kids. I call them my kids.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because we work with them.
But, you know, we did. It was that early experience of tactile, a lot of tactile. I can remember making a pool of pudding and letting them play in the pudding, and doing a lot of environmental integration. It was really awesome. And I look at I would love to know where they are now. You know, what are they doing now?
And see, that's what Kim and I talk about all the time. Just to see our students who have cerebral palsy, or who come in who are in a wheelchair, who uses a wheelchair, to actually see them maneuver through campus and actually to end up graduating. That gives us a self gratification that nobody else can really give, because we help them say, yeah, you can do it. Because we do a lot of self advocacy, but we also are behind the scenes, educating and helping the students understand and supporting them, and making sure that they also understand that while we're here, you know, this is what we're here for you, but we also want you to be able to self-advocate once you leave Georgia Highlands. Right. So if you're going to Kennesaw State or University of West Georgia, UGA, or what have you, you need to understand this is what you need to do in reference to have a voice, how to be able to talk to the faculty members or staff or whomever for services. So yeah, but it just does our heart good to see a student who uses a wheelchair to actually come and graduate. It really does. Not just a student in a wheelchair, all students with disabilities.
Yeah, the communication, I think, is the key. And like you said, promoting self-advocating, making sure that they have the support. And that's one of the things when we talk about least restrictive environment. what is a least restrictive environment? Well, to me, it's very individualized. And when with my kids, we had a service plan, an education plan. My daughter had a learning disability, and I was so thankful that I knew the things that I knew, so that I could advocate for her.
There you go. Yeah.
And she ended up graduating. Along the way, you talked about, we're talking about kind of some emotional or learning disabilities, but there are also the medical. When Felicia was 14, 13, she contracted a virus that attacked her heart, causing an idiopathic viral cardiomyopathy, which means her heart enlarged. And so she was in the hospital waiting on a heart transplant. So we had to advocate making sure that she still got the education and the things that she needed. We had to come up with a good educational plan so that while she was in the hospital, because she went in her 8th grade year right after Christmas. She went into the hospital.
So she had that extra 6 months, 4 or 5 months from January up until May, where she need that.
Yes, where she needed those accommodations. She actually did get her heart in February, but then she was in and out of a lot of different issues, in and out. And her plan was to go to college. She died in '99.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But what we learned was that advocating. And one of the things that stuck out to me, and in the school I have to hand it to, and they finally got it, was she was going on a Studycade. And because she had her medical condition, they were afraid for her to go. What if she had problems with her heart? I said, what if a child broke their leg?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same thing. You take them to the hospital.
Yeah.
What they finally did, they did make accommodations. I had to follow them in my car. Personally, I took, actually ended up, her and two of her friends got permission to be in my car instead of on the bus, because they wanted to have that extra car if I needed to leave. I had all my transplant, I had all my hospitals lined up everywhere we went, and my transplant coordinator had fixed everything and said, yes, she's able to do the activities. She hiked up Amicalola Falls, and I couldn't even do that.
Even when just the experience that you got allowed you for that experience. Yes. To have that information for the experience. And a lot of times, even with the ADA law changing in 2008, it added heart condition. The amendment added HIV and AIDS. That people don't think that's a disability. Cancer, any type of cancer, those falls upon the disability.
It had added all that.
In amendments of 2008, it expanded anything, because you may have people who have diabetes, type 1, type 2 diabetes, kidney dialysis, what have you. Anything that may take you out of your normal walking, breathing, any kind of activity. Hearing, whatever it is. And so the amendments of 2008 kind of want to have that all inclusive. So because if you're getting kidney dialysis, that may drain your ability to have to walk 50 yards or 50 feet or what have you. You see what I'm saying? So anything that needed adjusting to academic RAM, amendments 2008 had the ability to add that in there. We have students who have diabetes currently. We have students who have cancer. We may have students who have HIV and AIDS. That's nobody's business, as long as they're registered with us, they have the proper documentation, and then the professional give us the recommendations on how to accommodate that student on campus. If that student is getting dialysis, they may need to have later classes. Because if they're doing dialysis 9 to 11, they may need to have later day, evening classes. It just depends. So we don't think about all of that when we're working with students as faculty and staff, but the Department of Student Support Service Disability, we know the reasoning behind it. So we're back to trying to move and make things happen for the students to get accommodations on campus.
And so, just so I'm clear and everybody else is clear, the early intervention, and then the K through 12, that's under one
law. The IDEA.
IDEA, okay. And then post-secondary is under ADA. All right. Well, get your coffee. We'll be right back.
May I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Okay.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Sonia, again, I want to thank you for joining me. I know it's out of your regular regular work schedule, but
Thank you.
But Georgia Highlands is very good to accommodate the show, because I do like to have people from Georgia Highlands to come onto the show to talk about the things that we do, and to promote awareness of the different things that Georgia Highlands is involved in with disabilities.
Okay.
So I know you wanted to talk a little bit about some specific
things. We actually launched last year Disability Voice, which is a newsletter.
Okay.
And in the newsletter, we give faculty some insiders in what they should know, giving them tidbits in reference to things they may see in their classroom in reference to learning disabilities. Some things that they may not actually see, but this is why. The reasoning behind it in reference to, you may see students with ADHD, but this is how you deal with the accommodation letters that we send to the faculty. So in our newsletter, we try to give them just a little bit of information in reference to different GHC's mission. Wanting to make sure that all students are getting their education completed, matriculating through, and we want to make sure that they're understanding why we do what we do in reference to making sure all students are accommodated, and making sure that as long as we're getting federal funding, it's a federal law. ADA is a federal law. We don't have a choice. We have to make sure we accommodate these students on campus, all campuses, and so each campus is totally different. So what we may do at Marietta campus, it may not work for us on the wrong campus. So we have to make sure that we get all faculty to understand that. We may have more ability to do some things in a different area because Florida is the main campus, but it may be different in Douglasville, or it may be different in Paulden. So we just have to make sure we giving the faculty, just letting them know about Disability Awareness Month, giving them just tidbits of what they should know while we do what we do.
What are some things that for faculty that would be helpful? What kind of things might a faculty need to accommodate?
For instance, a student may need additional time in a distraction-free environment. So we inform the faculty that there's a form for this, for testing arrangements. The students make testing or accommodations arrangements with us. So there's a form that they have to fill out 5 days in advance. Once they get this pink form, they let us know if the test is March the 10th. And so once they get that, then the faculty will deliver us the exam. And then, or either the testing center, whichever works best for the student. And then we will then give the students the additional time. For instance, they get 75 minutes in the classroom, but this particular student may get double time. And so if it's documented, and that's what we'll do, and we'll try to make sure we can't give them distraction free, because we're gonna have cars driving by. We may have, like in Marietta, we have planes flying over them. So we have to let the students know we just reduce distraction free.
Reduce it.
Yes.
Not maybe.
Yes.
Well,
can't totally eliminate.
I was going to say, is there really any place to do?
No.
No. I don't think
so. We use sound machines. We try our best to keep the environment quiet as possible, because some students have the intense anxiety or anxiety disorders, ADHD, that keeps them, off track. So it may make them, attention span, so we try to make sure that we do what we can to keep them in a good testing environment. So faculty may see that, so they won't have to worry about the double time or how many more minutes the student's supposed to have. We try to do all that on our end in reference to giving them the proper accommodations. We may have some students who need a scribe. We have some students who have cerebral palsy. They're not able to have the ability to write. So we have someone there to write for the students, fill out the Scantrons, or the students have to tell the scriber what to do, or either to read to the student based on what the professional gives us in reference to how to accommodate the student on campus. Everything is done by a professional psychologist. We make sure we send it and we have to get it approved, and then we come back and then we accommodate the student. So the faculty don't know the behind the scenes. All they know is we give them an accommodation letter,
That
let them know.
specifically lays out what their requirement, I guess, is.
Well, first we let them know with the law that this is why we do what we do, and the student has registered with us, and because of the ADA law, this is how we accommodate this student. And we'll give them for the classroom accommodations, if the student needs to sit in the front, if it's a hearing impaired student who's using a captionist or sign language interpreter, we'll put that in the letter. So when the student comes, it won't be a surprise to the faculty member. We tell the students to talk to the faculty member during the office hours, so that it's just them having a conversation.
Right, instead of the whole classroom knowing what's going on. Right.
And so we ask the students to make sure they make an appointment with the faculty member, talk with them, have their full attention. They don't have to tell them their diagnosis.
Right.
Just tell them,
this is what I need.
I'm registered and this is my accommodation letter. This is what I need.
I know as a faculty member myself that I don't get that many. A lot of times, and I do teach some online classes, everything is opened up for a full week, so there's really not as great a need in the online, because there is some flexibility with some deadlines. I mean, the way I set it up, it's you need to do this and this on a certain day, or by a certain day, but you can do it in the middle of the night.
Yes,
as long as I have it by 7
online.
o'clock p.m. or midnight on Saturday, or whatever I've laid the dates. So with that, it's been pretty not that I haven't had that many. With my in-class, I think I've had a sign language interpreter. I can remember a few years ago I had a hearing impaired student, and I know a little sign language. I used to be more proficient than I am now because I'm out of practice.
Yeah, me too.
And bless her heart, she was late that day, and so I was able to kind of at least help in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I thought, what if she couldn't? And I mean, you accommodate the best you can. I mean, there are going to always be those that you can't meet everything, especially scheduling. I know that, even people with non-disabilities, I need a class at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, we don't have any 7 o'clock in the morning classes, so accommodation in that, I think, again, reasonable.
Reasonable. And that's what the law says, clearly, reasonable accommodation. Anything that's going to take us out of, for instance, if we have a nursing student who has to have a hearing impaired stethoscope, then the university, the college, we will have to purchase that, because if all the other students pay $60 for, I'm just saying, I don't know how much it costs, but if they just say all students have to have a stethoscope, and if we have a hearing impaired student and it has to be amplified, so then we'll have to pay for that, because it's unfair to that student have to pay $600 when the students without disability pay $60. So we will have to meet that need for the student, and then the student it's our property. The student have to sign for it, and he will check it out, bring it back, and then it's ours.
So if another student came along.
Yes.
Interesting. I didn't realize that too.
Or you may have it's different things. We it just depends on what the student needs, and then if we're able to, like you said, reasonable. But anything that takes it out of the scope of practice, there's nothing we really could do about it. So we have to send the student back to professional and say,
this is what,
make it reasonable.
One of the things I think that, and I have to say, the faculty and staff at Georgia Highlands, in my opinion, and I've worked and been around other schools and other situations, but for the most part, are very reasonable and very helpful and supportive of all students, regardless of disability or not. And so I think that that's one of the things I pride Georgia Highlands with, is that we truly do. We're smaller. We're a big small school.
Yeah.
You know, even though we were 5 campuses and we're large in that way and we're spread out, we're still a small community that tries to work together for the success of our students. And like you said, there's a lot of behind scenes that nobody really even knows.
Exactly.
It just happens, and it's kind of like even this TV show. You know, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that nobody sees.
Exactly.
So to have that kind of support at Georgia Highlands to me is very. It says a lot about our school.
It really does. Even when you were talking about the sign language interpreter on our Cartersville campus, Diane Renfro, I think that's her name, Debbie, the hearing impaired.
Debbie. Yeah.
She has been phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
We had a student who had a class in Cartersville, also had a class in Floyd. So we had a sign language interpreter for Floyd, but didn't have anybody for Cartersville. But she was able to help us and, get somebody at the last minute because someone dropped out. But it was able to be worked out because she was able to step in, because she's hearing impaired, and she was able to step in and give us names and help us. And like you said, Georgia Highlands, that's something we had no clue, of what to do. We had a list of hearing impaired and sign language interpreters, but everybody was booked at a particular time, and she was able to step in and help us and give us someone, and then we were able to get that person. So.
That's neat. I found out just the other day one of my current students is I think she's certified in interpreting. Okay. A certified interpreter, and she's I did not realize that, so I might want to give her name to you because she might can help out sometimes too. But she's maybe a work study or something. Just to kind of wrap things up, when we think about disabilities, we talked a little bit about the medical, we talked about learning, we talked about the physical. There is another, and we only have about 2 minutes left, so we don't have a lot of time. But we talked briefly about post-traumatic syndrome, stress syndrome, the importance of being able to understand and I think of our veterans especially, they might not be disabled, but the stress of if they've been in combat and a loud noise can be very stressful. So I think it's just being more aware of all of our students,
yes,
and saying, hey, what can we do to make our environment because I can't learn anybody anything, but I can facilitate their learning.
Yes.
And I think that's what's important.
Yes. And we talk to our veterans. Angie Willis is very good about getting out there talking to our veterans. We are making sure we connect with our veterans to come and get registered with our services so they can get accommodated as well.
Well, I hate to say adieu, goodbye, but we're almost done. Thank you for joining us on GHC Coffee Break.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Sonia, thank you so much for joining me. I do have a very strong passion for people with disabilities. And I think that language that we need, people with disabilities, they're able first.
Yes.
Think about what they can do.
People first.
People first.
Yes.
And remembering people first language. So if nothing else comes out of this, just to remember everybody out there, people first. They have abilities. They just happen to have some disabilities. I have a disability. I wear glasses.
I do
too.
I don't contact.
Yep, I have diabetes. So just found that out. So until next time on GHC Coffee Break, we'll see ya.